Welcome to QuerySurge in 14 minutes. We're going to review the current feature set of QuerySurge over the next 14 minutes. When you log into QuerySurge, you come to the Widget Dashboard. The Widget Dashboard is a set of widgets designed to give users a real-time view into the QuerySurge project. If you look in the upper left, got a widget there that shows the rate of query pair creation over time by one of the demo project users, Sam. And a query pair is the QuerySurge term for a test. So we're looking at Sam's productivity in creating tests over time. If you look in the lower two widgets, we can see different representations of the outcome data. So I can see how the testing has been going over the past recent tests at a glance in real time from those widgets. The widget in the upper left is the QuerySurge launcher. That's a special widget. It gives you the QuerySurge workflow, which is a pretty standard workflow for testing tools. It starts out with the design library where you create your QuerySurge tests. It goes on to the scheduling view where you schedule up sets of tests for executions. It's got a real-time run dashboard where in real time you can see your data flow back into QuerySurge. And finally, in terms of daily workflow, the last step is reporting. We've got a formal reporting section so that users can report on their project progress within the team and beyond the team. There's also an administrative view in this workflow, and that's where all the standard administrative tasks are taken care of. Let's jump into the design library and take a look at a query pair. We're going to look at just an average query pair here, which we can enter in through the grid or through the tree view. And we open up a query pair. We'll see that a query pair is aptly named because it's a pair of queries designed to go against 2 points in the architecture that the user has selected. And you can see that the query on the left is called the source query, query on the right is called the target query. These are completely flexible terms chosen by or assigned by the user so that users can create any combination of points within their architecture. Let's just look at the source query and look at the different technologies that are available on the source query. And you can see a broad range of the standard database technologies here, as well as the newer big data technologies, as well as technologies that are older but still in very common use, like flat file technologies and XMLs that also are very common in today's big data and data warehouse worlds. Now, an important point is that the connection list on the source side is identical to the connection list on the target side. So you can make any combination in any order of any of these technologies that you need to. So you want to do database against database, you can of course do that. If you want to do flat file against database, flat file against XML, XML against database, flat file against flat file, any of those combinations plus any others you can come up with are all available to you. The other thing that I should mention is that the technologies that we're looking at here are not limiting. They're just what we've got set up in this demo instance. QuerySurge can connect to anything that's got a JDBC driver available for it. So truly broad range of options available in terms of creating query pairs. Let's talk for a moment about where query pairs come from. In order to frame this part of the presentation, I'd just like to mention some survey data that we came up with as we survey our market space. We asked respondents to estimate how many query pairs across their projects have no transformations. They're pass-through query pairs. And the response that we got to that question over a pretty broad range of products, of verticals, and of respondents is that something in the range of 70 to 80% of mappings are pass-through mappings. That is, mappings that have no transformation associated with them. And in view of that fact, we decided to include a feature in QuerySurge to help support project members who are dealing with testing a large fraction of mappings that are transformationless. And that's where the Query Wizard came from. And when you launch the Query Wizard, the first thing that you do is you choose some connections to work on. So I'm just going to choose a couple of connections that we have set up here in our demo instance, a sales database and a data warehouse that the sales database ETLs into. After you make that choice, you choose what kind of comparison type that you want to use for this wizard session, and we're going to use the column level comparison, although you can use a table level comparison option or a row count option, whatever is most appropriate for your testing needs. Once you've done that, you can go in and choose the schema that you're going to use. I've chosen the sales schema on the source side and the data warehouse schema on the target side. And now we're at the business side of the wizard because we've got all of the tables associated with the source schema and all the tables associated with the target schema. And I'm just going to do a little filtering here so that we can see some tables of interest a little more easily. And in our ETL, it turns out that the orders table on the source is related to the purchase table on the target. And so I'm going to drag and drop to connect those. And as you can see, as soon as I do that, in the lower portion of the wizard, we generate the simplest query pair possible, just two select star queries, one for source and one for target. In addition to that, you can see on the right side of the wizard, now we've got all of the columns available. So if I know that, say, based on specific aspects of the ETL, that certain of these columns are related to each other, and I want to be able to create a test that is more specific, all I have to do is start to drag and drop columns that are related to one another, and as you can see, the query pair is automatically updating in response to the graphical choices that I'm making. Now, in addition to specifying columns, I can also add in filtering. So if I want to limit this test to a specific range of dates, for example, I can do that quite easily just by making the appropriate choices in the wizard. And I've done that for source now, and source has been automatically updated with a where clause to filter the data. I'm going to do the same thing on target. And now I've got source and target limited to the same date range. The last thing that I can do in the wizard is, if I should desire to, I can do some sorting. So if I want to impose a sort order on my data, which can be very helpful when looking at the data, I can do that. And if I should like to, I can also choose whether it's an ascending sort or a descending sort. For this example, I'm just going to go with the default. And now let me do the same thing for the target. And now I've got an order by clause on both source and target. So for that large fraction of tests that you're going to need to test the pass-through mappings, again, 70 to 80% in our survey, your range may be higher, it may be lower, but it's still likely to be still a fairly decent chunk. We can use the wizard to quickly generate the query pairs to test those pass-through mappings. And just to kind of bring home the point in a full sense, the idea here is that team members who are data knowledgeable and business rule knowledgeable, but not necessarily SQL experienced, can jump in with relatively little training on the wizard and start to generate those query pairs. So the idea is that you can move in very quickly and start getting productivity from across the team by creating the query pairs that you need to test the no transformation mappings. Now, I'll just also say parenthetically that some of our power users really like to start out with the wizard as well, because they'll build scaffolding queries using the wizard that they're going to go then and modify to create the more complex tests that are going to be needed for the query pairs that are going to be testing mappings with transformations. And apropos of that, let's just jump in and take a look at such a test just to see how that works in QuerySurge. If we come here, we can see that we've got a sales database on the source side and a data warehouse on the target side. On the target side, you can see, as you would expect, we've got two columns, one for customer last name and one for customer first name, as you would expect in a data warehouse. On the source side, if we look at the query, what you can see is that the underlying table in the source database has the customer name in a single column in a last name, comma, first name layout. And what we're doing here is we're using a little bit of very straightforward string handling to break apart that customer name into two separate columns, one for last name, one for first name, in the result set that comes back, so that our source result set is directly comparable to our target result set. And so as you can see from this, for any column that requires transformation, the transformation logic has to be included in the SQL itself. The reason that we elected to go with that design is because we realized even for very common transformations, different organizations may implement them with small differences, and we decided that we'd be better off simply getting out of the user's way and letting them do the job they need to with their full SQL syntax rather than giving them pre-formed functionality that may not do what they need. So when we say you've got the full access to your SQL syntax, we mean that. You're not limited to ANSI SQL. So if you're working, for example, in Oracle, you can use PL SQL calls in your selects. If you're working in SQL Server, you can use T-SQL calls in your selects, and so on and so forth. At this point, let's move on and talk about scheduling execution in QuerySurge. So I'm going to go over to the scheduling view. And the scheduling view is based on the idea of a suite. We're looking at a customer suite here. A suite is a common term in testing tools. And for QuerySurge, a suite is simply a collection of query pairs that you're going to schedule out together for execution as a group. To create a suite, all you have to do is give a suite a name. And then you've got an empty suite. And you can just drag and drop a folder from the Query Pairs design library into your suite if you want to create a suite along lines of your folders. But you can continue on and drag in multiple folders. You can drag in individual query pairs. You can edit out query pairs until you get the specific mix you want. Once you've got your suite created, if you want to just do a quick one-off run, you can run now, or you can schedule your suite. And you can put as many suites as you want to into your schedule. And you can choose whatever time you'd like to execute them. In addition to this, if we want to execute based on what we call event-based scheduling, we can do so using the QuerySurge Execution API, which allows us to execute from any tool in the wider environment that can access a command line to call into QuerySurge to execute. In this example, we're looking at an ETL run where the ETL tool calls into QuerySurge at the end of each of these demo legs that it's executing, and it will run tests on the data that has been ETL'd in each leg. As this leg ends, we'll look in the page behind and we'll be able to see the call come into QuerySurge for the execution, and we'll see the execution proceed. As we see things execute, we can go in and look at them specifically, and if we should have failures, we can go and look at the failure data and start to examine what the mismatch might be. Let's just take a quick look at a report, and we're going to show the scenario detail report. The scenario detail report gives a good feel for how we handle reporting in QuerySurge. And when we look at the scenario detail report, we give you some very standard testing metrics in the test results section, where you can see how many tests executed, what the pass rate was. And in the overview section, we give you some deep dive types of metrics, like how long the execution took, how many total verifications were conducted, how many data failures there were, and the total data reliability. So this execution took about 6 minutes and 20 seconds. There were about 6.7 million verifications, about 228,000 data failures, and that means we have a data reliability metric of about 97%, meaning approximately 97% of the data came back comparing favorably. If we go down to the detail portion of this, you can see all the query pairs that were executed in addition to their outcome and other query pair level metrics. And if you want to see the underlying data, all you have to do is click through the report back into our dashboard, and you can see data for each pass or fail. Well, that's our quick tour of QuerySurge. If you'd like to get some more information about features that we haven't shown here, or dive deeper into the features that we did show, feel free to go to our website and check things out. In addition to what you've seen here, we've got email notification, we've got thresholding to make your data comparisons based on thresholds, and we've got a whole slew of API features as well that are waiting for you to try.